Hi friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my book review of Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. Now before I get into this video, I will say that this is not my first experience reading a Mark Lawrence novel. I did attempt reading Prince of Thorns 2 years ago, I believe.
Now I realize this is a dark genre. I'm not going to say anything about genre or anything like that because I know it's supposed to be, I know that Prince of Thorns is very dark. However, to me it felt less like dark and gory and philosophical as it did.
However, when I saw the synopsis of Red Sister and it basically said assassin nuns with a child protagonist, I was immediately interested and very excited to read this book. So in Red Sister, we meet Nona Gray, who is our protagonist through the entire book, and it is only on her perspective. She is a very young girl, I think 7 or 8 at the time the book opens, and she is very fascinating. She is a very heavy anti-hero character. She's very much on the edge of grimdark, which is, I can totally see Mark Lawrence's grimdark influences seeping into this main character, and I kind of love it. Through a chain of events where she is ripped away from her home village, has to leave her mother, and brought into this major city, Nona ends up at the convent of Sweet Mercy, which is run by different groups of nuns, presided over by Abbess Glass. Now this convent is kind of divided into 4 main types of nuns. We have the Holy Sisters, who are mostly spiritual, who spend their time devoted to their worship of the ancestor, who is the god figure in this book. You have the Red Sisters, who are basically warrior nuns, and they are very much focused on martial arts. You have the Gray Sisters, who are the shadow poisoner types. The 4th category are the Mystic Sisters, or the Holy Witches, and they have access to this world's main magic system, which is described as the Path, which is basically kind of the threads that bind all things together, and these Holy Witches can kind of reach through and manipulate and access those threads. Now Nona is inducted into this convent of Sweet Mercy under the tutelage of the nuns. Nona comes in and she is discovered to have multiple types of magic blood in her, which gives her different skill sets that are very useful in these different arts. This book has a very wizard school vibe to it, which I really loved, and I really appreciated among the novices that Nona ends up with. There is a lot of diversity in the characters, and there are some really fantastic side characters that I absolutely love in this book. Hessa is one of my favorite characters I've read all year. I absolutely love her. She's a young girl who becomes Nona's friend, and she is crippled, and she is a holy witch, and she is able to access the path and all of that kind of stuff. She's the sweetest, kindest, most lovely little character, and I adore her. Nona at first very much struggles to play well with others. She really struggles with things like empathy. So she is definitely, you can kind of see the cogs turning as she slowly works herself into this new environment and tries to learn how to trust people and discovers making friends and all of that sort of thing. I really appreciated watching her learn throughout this book, and I feel like her character arc was very strong. First, let's talk about the world building and pacing. So this book, I felt like Lawrence did a really good job building us a environment that had a lot of great detail, but at the same time kept it focused enough in the convent of Sweet Mercy that it still felt like we were walking alongside Nona, because Nona comes from a place where she really doesn't know a ton about the world around her, and it just kind of slowly builds as we read through the book, and I thought that he did that part very well, and I'm assuming as I move forward in the series that I'm going to get a lot more detail about the bigger world picture. Pacing wise, I actually found this book to be a pretty fast read. His writing style is fairly detailed but doesn't become burdensome, which I really appreciated, and it is very much focused on the characters. There were a couple of spots where I felt like things lagged just a little bit, but it really wasn't enough for me to say that this wasn't a fast-paced read. I read it pretty quickly, and it is a fairly, it's a fairly decent sized read, so I appreciated that about his writing style. When it comes to the characters, Nona is a fantastic protagonist. She has a really lovely dose books of anti-hero about her, and I really loved to see the threads of Lawrence's grimdark influence coming into her character specifically. There was great contrast between Nona and her band of friends, enemies, and frenemies that she makes in the novices and in some of the nuns around her. I really, really loved the distinctness of the younger characters in this book especially. Now, when it comes to the older characters, the nuns, Abbess Glass, the teachers in the school, the older women, I actually felt like, for the most part, were a little bit less distinct. I actually had a hard time a couple of times distinguishing who was who, even when I was 2/3 of the way through the book. So I felt like he did a better job with the character distinction in the younger group than he did with the older group of women. Abbess Glass as a mentor character was very good for the most part. Again, would have maybe liked to see a little bit more distinction about her, but at this time she's very shrouded in mystery, which I feel like kind of reflects the way that Nona views her. Kind of half motherly, half mysterious, and I really like that Lawrence kind of reflects Nona's views in what we know about the world and the other characters. So one of the things that I really wanted to give Mark Lawrence a shout out for here is the fact that I felt like, especially in the younger novice characters, the nuns a little bit less, but especially in the younger characters in this book, that Lawrence did a really fabulous job writing female characters. I felt like he did a great job making them believable, making them interesting, making them realistic. That was something that I really wanted to give him a shout out for in this review. There have definitely been times where I will read a fantasy novel written by a man and there are female characters that are incredibly kind of one-trick pony and very stylized and just not very interesting, and they definitely feel more like a man's projection of a woman as opposed to an actual real woman. So that was something that I really appreciated about Mark Lawrence in this book, is I felt like he did a great job. He literally put himself in a convent full of nuns and gave himself the challenge of writing almost an entirely female cast, which kudos to Mark for taking that on and actually doing a pretty good job of it. I was very impressed. I'm definitely going to be reading the next 2 books in this series. I'm very excited to see what happens. There was a huge plot twist at the end that I didn't see coming that made me really, 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 really sad. So I don't know how I feel moving into book 2. But I'm definitely excited to see what happens with Nona as she gets integrated more into kind of the tensions of the bigger world around her outside of the convent, and seeing how things progress with her friends and with the nuns and with the other characters. Overall, highly, highly, highly recommend this book if you are looking for a fast read with kind of a wizard school vibe, with some great young protagonist, side characters, etc. I am so glad that I decided to read another Mark Lawrence book, because I might have missed out on this little gem of a novel if I hadn't, and I'm very excited to read more from him. Anyways, thank you guys so much for supporting my channel, watching the video. If you want to see more book reviews, K-drama reviews, and whatever else I decide to put on this channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I would love to hear in the comments if you've read this book or this trilogy and what you thought of it. Please let me know down below the video. Yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video.